Hello, Ordained Women supporters. We are going to have a women's history tour, first ever of its kind. Mormon women going to learn about women's history. And it's going to be amazing. We are literally going to get on a bus and tour around upstate New York to a lot of amazing sites. And I wanted to let you know a little bit about the impetus for the idea and how it came about. If you remember way back when, this spring, when we released the conversation series, conversation number 2 was called Know the History. And it centers around, if you haven't read it, you should read it and share it. It centers around knowing our history and being informed about history in ways that can inform the future and help us envision the future. So conversation 2 I've been thinking a lot about, and when I was in law school, I went to school in Washington, D.C., and my husband and I took a road trip. It was a women's history road trip, a feminist road trip, very nerdy, but it was amazing. Upstate New York is where we primarily focused. A lot of really, really rich, interesting history happened there. We went to a lot of different sites. The Harriet Tubman home is a place where she lived and worked in Auburn, New York. She is called the Moses of her people, was really instrumental in the Underground Railroad, and Auburn was sort of the last stop before they got to Canada. She's the one who said, "I freed 1,000 slaves, and I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves." She was an amazing, brave, courageous woman who found her own freedom and helped others do the same. Just slightly west of Auburn is the site of the first Women's History Convention in 1848. There's now a women's rights historical park there run by the national government, and it's amazing. There is the site of the convention. It's a hall. You can walk in there. It really feels like hallowed ground just to feel the presence of these just incomprehensibly courageous women like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott and all of these women who have done so much for us. And just a little bit farther west of that is Rochester, New York. In Rochester is the Susan B. Anthony home where she lived until her death. In the Susan B. Anthony home is something really special. If you walk into her bedroom, there's a large glass case that has a black silk dress. And that dress was made from silk given to her by Mormon women pioneers who participated in the cottage industry of silk in Utah. So the connection of these national suffrage leaders to Mormon women is really clear. And I recently did a podcast about Mormon women who are active in the suffrage movement, so I can link to that. It's just a really amazing, largely unknown history. Also in Rochester are the graves of Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass, also a former slave and abolitionist. Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass were friends, although they disagreed on a lot of issues. But it's just amazing to go to these sites and learn about these people and this rich history and the courage and bravery that they exhibited. It's very inspiring. So we want to do it. Also in upstate New York are a lot of sites that Mormon people are familiar with. In Palmyra, you have the Hill Cumorah and the Hill Cumorah pageant. You have the Joseph Smith home, the Smith log cabin, which is where they lived. You also have the Sacred Grove. You can go and walk through the Sacred Grove. There's just some really, really fantastic, rich spiritual sites for Mormonism. So all in this very, Rochester to Palmyra is only 30 miles. So it's a very small geographic area where, you have suffrage and the Underground Railroad and the foundation of Mormonism and all these really interesting historical figures lived and worked. So we want to go there. We are going to go there in September of 2015 as a group. We're going to hop on a bus and go from New York City and visit all these sites. Really, the reason is just so that we can know and own our history, and we can envision a future that we are part of, and that we are just as brave and courageous and inspirational as the people that we're going to learn about. So it's going to be a time for us to get to know each other, a time for us to really connect and just have fun, which I think we really all need. If you're not able to come, which obviously some people won't be able to come due to distance and all other kinds of barriers, we want you to join us online. Whether you live in New Mexico or Australia or Brazil or UK, wherever you live, learn about a woman from your country or region's history and visit that site and let us know. And we'll all participate online in a really, really rich week of learning about our history and being inspired from these women in our past. So that's that. The deposit is due on December 15th. If you have any questions, let us know. It's going to be historic in and of itself. You know, there's a rich history of Mormons doing history tours. I remember when I was in seminary, we went to Nauvoo and we did this huge road trip. And I think it's going to be historic for us to all visit these sites together and learn about them together. So join us if you can, either in person or online. And I'm really, really looking forward to it.